So this match, round 4, we are on the play, and I think this is a perfectly reasonable hand because we do have 3 lands, both of our colors. We have a 2-mana interactive spell, and then we have some later game action. The problem is that we don't have the setup cards for the Thopterists. This is one of the sort of fail states of this deck, fail cases. It doesn't come up that often, but sometimes you get clogged with dragons and Thopterists in hand, especially when the opponent does something like abrade your goggles. That can really cause some hands to fall apart, and then they like kill your swooper or your chaser, so then you never make the servo off it, and then you just kind of get clogged with 5-drops in hand. That doesn't usually happen, but that could be a way this game gets out of hand. Still good enough hand to keep, because we're very likely to draw action. Looks like we're against Mardu vehicles. Looks like they have a pretty good draw. We want to abrade the heart, because the Toolcraft Exemplar is not a problem for our deck. All right, they had another heart. It's a little unfortunate. That's fine. We want to save our artifacts. So the reason we didn't block or kill the Toolcraft on the previous turn, we just let them get a 3-point hit in with the Toolcraft, because we needed the Ballista to improvise our Thopterist. So that was basically a necessary means just to get this Thopterist online. Because now that we have the Thopterist online, I feel like we have that buffer where we're now sort of, it's really hard for the opponent to deal us damage. So now, before blockers with the Toolcraft ability on the stack, we are killing the Toolcraft Exemplar. And the reason we're doing this is because we just don't want to take a hit from Heart of Kiran or have to chump block it. So here we're just fine with trading off our Ballista. It's not an integral part of our plan. If we draw our 4th land, we're going to be casting like Thopterist and Free Jam Regent anyway, instead of putting a counter on the Ballista. Ballista is great in this matchup, but in some spots, you just trade it 1 for 1. We already got the one improvise off it. Now we're trading for the Toolcraft and preventing a Heart of Kiran hit. And it looks like the opponent may have made a mistake. If they played the Toolcraft pre-combat, they could have still gotten the hit in with the Heart of Kiran. So that was a mistake, but given the way our draw is developing, it doesn't look like that's going to make a difference, because we could have just chump blocked with a Thopter there or taken 4, and the opponent doesn't have black mana or 3rd land anyway. So our draw is developing and theirs is not. Yeah, and now at this point, they're just like, all right, well, I'm dead. And they didn't even know how dead they were, because they were about to get dragoned into oblivion with Free Jam Regent. So we would have played, depending on what we draw, but we're likely playing Free Jam for 3 mana and improvising with 2 Thopters and a dock hand. And then we could just basically smash with our team and not be worried about anything. So this game is going pretty easily. And now what we do, as far as sideboarding, basically the same as the Ramanap Red matchup. We want to bring in all the cheap removal spells, Abrade and Spray. We want to take out some of the big flyers. I believe Heart of Kiran, Glorybringer, and Free Jam Regent are the cards that I am most willing to bring out. Maybe 1 or 2 copies of Dockhand, if you want to make room that way. Definitely keep in all the Ballistas, all the Abrades, all the Sprays. Those are the 12 cards that are most important in the matchup. I also really like Thopterist and Pia and Virtuoso. Those are also very good in this matchup. And then you can basically never side out any copies of Goggles, because that's just the key card in the deck. So that basically leaves us with taking out Dragons, Heart of Kiran, and Dockhand. Basically is the only reasonable cards to side out. And since we're bringing in such good cards, I think that this is a good plan. Let's see, who was our opponent? Space Odyssey. So now for game 2, we're on the draw. And our hand is pretty reasonable. We have the turn 2 interaction with the Abrade. Hopefully we can hit like a Heart of Kirin or something off that. And then we have the Virtuoso to kind of stem the bleeding. And then on turn 4, presumably we'll have another land by then out of 4 draw steps. And that'll allow us to use the Thopter off the Virtuoso plus the 4 lands to cast the Thopterist. And then that should buy us enough time to set up the Glorybringer. So this hand looks like it has all the pieces to a good start. We actually drew a 2-mana artifact if we need it, and that can kill the Ballista. So we actually got a little freebie with the goggles as well. Now here, I made a play as just like, okay, block. So the idea was I'm going to trade the Ballista for the Motorist, and I could have just done it on my turn, but I figure the opponent might have like a haste creature, and if they have a haste creature, I can block the haste creature and then shoot the Motorist. And since they didn't, and they just attacked with the Motorist, I was like, well, I want to trade the Ballista for it. And instead of sacrificing the Ballista to ping it, that would open us up to any sort of trick. So some people are playing the 1-mana instant that says a creature is indestructible, scry 1. I've seen that out of the Mardu decks. And if we just sack our Ballista to kill it, then we could get blown out by that card. But if I'm like, okay, block, whatever trick they have, whether it's a pump spell or the indestructible trick, well, we could just shoot it in response, and then we 2-for-1 them. So by just blocking and letting damage happen, it effectively plays around haste creature and any sort of trick they would have. And so it's kind of weird that you would just trade in combat with the Ballista, but given the way the cards that we're trying to play around, that was actually just the best way to make that trade. So now on our turn, they played the Rampaging Frostdawn, and here, interestingly enough, since we don't have an artifact to improvise with the Thopterist, and we have to play the goggles in order for that to happen, we could just play the Virtuoso, but then we're just taking a bunch of damage from the Frostdawn. Now, given the way our hand is, and even the way this matchup is, I think we are better suited to be the controlling deck against them. So we want to take as little damage as possible. And we know that the Frostdawn is one of their most potent threats against us. We would even kill it over a Heart of Kirin at this point. And so we definitely want to abrade the Frostdawn. And so we'd rather just make this trade first before we start playing our creatures, instead of taking a bunch of damage while like setting up our board or whatever. So we basically just get to play the goggles, abrade the Frostdawn, and then go about our business. And we're at like 20 life. Well, they had another Frostdawn anyway, so we're still going to have to fight through it. But at this point now, we can just jam the Thopterist. Yeah, we take some damage, but we have a pretty powerful board right now. We have a 3/4 and a pair of 1/1s against the 3/3. If they attack, well, we were planning on blocking, but then they Chandra our Thopterist, which is kind of okay with us, because now we have this really great play now, where with our Glorybringer, we can finish off their Chandra and kill their Frostdawn at the small price of taking 1 damage from the Frostdawn for our Glorybringer. And the question is, do we attack with the Thopters or not? We could try to play around Hazaret by leaving a Thopter back. It's a reasonable line, but I think basically just attacking and making them have it is the better option at this point. They have Chandra, which is pretty strong here. And so what they did was they produced 2 mana to play the Aethersphere Harvester instead of shooting the Glorybringer. So I think that the reasoning for doing this is because the Glorybringer is exerted. It's not going to be hitting the Chandra. The most we could do is deal 2 damage to the Chandra, and then once we deal the 2 damage to the Chandra with the Thopters, they can still minus it to kill the Glorybringer the following turn. So they're basically just getting their Harvester on the board. They have no cards in hand though. So this is still a peculiar line for me, because what we can do, in addition, we could just like sack our Ramunap Ruins to deal damage to the Chandra, or we can equip one of our Thopters with the Goggles, or we can use any sort of other haste creature or burn spell to deal with the Chandra. So I think the better line for the opponent would have just been to minus and target the Glorybringer with their Chandra, and then the following turn just play the Harvester. That would have dealt with the Glorybringer. I still think that we're in a pretty commanding position, even if they do that line, but I think that by taking the line they took, they really just made it even worse for themselves. So here we're like, okay, attack Chandra down to 2, so now you can't kill Glorybringer. I'll just play a land and I'll play the Virtuoso, make a token, or at least threaten to make a token. And they're like, all right, I'm going to get mana, play my own Glorybringer that I top decked. And so now it's like, okay, well, you top decked a Glorybringer and you're attacking me. I'm at 7. I can't really afford to take this hit, because I'm going to have to attack Chandra to death, and I'm going to have to leave back a blocker for the Harvester. So might as well just chump block to save some damage here. So that's what we start out by doing. We draw a land, not great, but we have pretty good attack here. We attack with everyone. So we kill off Chandra and deal some damage to the opponent. They're at 10. We play the land. We play the Virtuoso. We can threaten to move over the Goggles. So by moving over the Goggles, if they attack with the Glorybringer, they can't exert to kill the Virtuoso with the Goggles on it, which I don't think they can afford to do anyway because they're at 10. But basically, with the line that we took, let's say they draw Unlicensed Disintegration. Okay, well, they can't attack with the Harvester and the Glorybringer because they have no creature to crew the Harvester with. So they can disintegrate our Thopter token, deals 3, putting us to 4, and finishes, and it kills us with the Glorybringer. But aside from Unlicensed Disintegration, there's basically nothing they can do to not die from this spot, right? Because we untap and we just basically attack out, and they can crew the Harvester and try to block our Glorybringer, which is why I guess we would move over the Goggles or whatever, and they could yeah, actually I'm not sure why they conceded there. That was pretty bad, because I don't know that we could actually kill them, given that they could gain life off the Harvester. So we're attacking we're threatening the Ramunap Ruins, so they're essentially at 8. And if we attack with everyone, they can take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and block the Glorybringer, and even gain life. So then we're just dead to a creature if we attack out. Yeah, so basically in this spot, we have to draw something on our turn to be able to threaten lethal through the Harvester. So the opponent had another turn. I mean, we're definitely the favorite to win at this point by quite a bit, but I think it was a little premature of a concession. Either way, so this is the 4th time out of these 10 matches where I played against Mardu vehicles, and I went 4-0 against it. So this is certainly a good matchup. It's not like a landslide, as you could tell, but it is. We kind of have the trump, and we usually finish a card or 2 ahead each game. And that's generally how this match played out. So yeah, you basically just want to bring in some cheap removal spells to deal with their early threats, and then and the abrades are great because they can basically kill almost anything. They can kill their their Harvester, they can kill their Heart of Kirin, they can kill their Ferocidon, they can kill anything else, anything other than Glorybringer, really. So yeah, this matchup's pretty good. It's close, but it's good.